shall we begin?
Let the games begin.
All right.
A new age has begun. An age of freedom.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Get to the chopper!
This is going to be quite a ride.
Everybody, and welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast this week. We have quite a lot to get to this week. We will be talking about the Oscar nominations. We will be talking about some movie trailers that came out, some movie news, and of course that little indie movie that came out this weekend. What's it called? That's right, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Yes, despite me saying that we weren't going to talk about it on the podcast, on the Twitter page, I decided to watch it, and I will give my thoughts about it at the end of the podcast. So you can look forward to that. So because of that, let's get right to the podcast. I didn't do my proper introduction. This is the Movie Pit Podcast, where we talk about all of the big breaking movie news items of the week, as well as the trailers and the movies that come out in theaters usually, because we're in COVID times, that's not necessarily the case. So we'll talk about that. Of course, talk about everything else far and in between, movie-wise. So yeah, let's get right to it. Before we get to any of the movie news, we do have two movie news items that came out after the podcast came out last week. But before we even get to that, I do want to mention the passing of someone, Yaphet Kotto, who sadly passed away this week on March 15th. Kotto was probably better known to a lot of genre fans for his roles in Alien, where he played Parker, The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was also in Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. But one of the big things that he was, that I think most genre fans would know him from, is also playing one of the bad guys in the James Bond film, Live and Let Die. So he was, of course, in a bunch of other projects. One of the big TV side of things that he was in was Homicide: Life on the Street, where he actually won several Image Awards for that role. Kotto was 81 when he passed away, so he lived a very fruitful life, I can imagine. But yeah, he passed away this weekend, or this week, I should say. And it's sad, obviously, whenever we lose an actor like that, especially nowadays, because it feels like it's happening a lot more often now because we're all at home, and obviously it doesn't seem like he passed away because of COVID reasons. I think it was probably a natural cause, but he did pass away. So no, he's gonna transition ever from talking about someone who's passed away. It's movie news, but I just wanted to put that out there because I was a fan of his. I really loved him in Alien. He was probably the best thing in Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. I haven't seen Live and Let Die, and that's sadly I haven't seen that, but I know a lot of people know him from that. I know he was in it. I just have never gotten around to watching it. But yeah, he again, 81. That's a big fruitful life for his and for everything that he's done movie wise. It was always good. So I just wanted to mention that. All right, so moving on from that, let's talk about two movie news items that came out after the podcast came out last week. The first one is The Flash. Flash is finally getting the ball rolling on production next month in London. That's where they're going to film the movie. Kirstie Clemons, we talked about last week, had locked her deal in to play Iris West. And now the movie has added yet another cast member while also losing another. So the new cast member is Spanish actress Maribel Verdú. She was the mother in Pan's Labyrinth. She was also in the very good movie Y Tu Mamá También. It's a Spanish movie. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you do. Verdú will play Barry Allen's mother, who in the comics doesn't have the best history, but she's playing the mother in the Flash movie, so we can only assume what we'll see from that, especially if you know your Flash history. Billy Crudup was the father. He played Henry Allen in Justice League. He dropped out of the movie. The reason he dropped out is because of scheduling conflicts with his Apple TV show, The Morning Show, so he couldn't really be in two places at once, because I think they filmed The Morning Show here in the States, and obviously they're going to be doing a lot of their filming over in London, so they obviously couldn't do it. Story-wise, we still don't know much about it. We do know that the multiverse will have a factor in it. We do know that Michael Keaton's Batman's going to be in it. We know that Ben Affleck's Batman's going to come back. We know that Sasha Calle is playing Supergirl in the movie. We know that Andy Muschietti is directing. Of course, Andy Muschietti is the director of the It movies. And we know that Christina Hodson, who wrote the script for Birds of Prey, is writing the script for the movie, or has written the script for the movie. The Flash will open presumably on November 4th, 2022. So we have that to look forward to. And the second movie news item that came out after the podcast came out last week, was that Paramount Pictures and The Daily Show host Trevor Noah are teaming up for a remake of The President's Analyst. It was a political comedy that was released back in 1967, so it's a very old movie. Noah will be producing the movie and is being developed as a potential star vehicle for him. Pat Conane, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He served for President Barack Obama for the 6 years as his senior writer and deputy of messaging for the White House. He wrote the script for the movie because after he left the White House, he wrote a biography. He's also been like writing for like TV shows and stuff. He actually wrote for the TV series Designated Survivor, the one with Kiefer Sutherland. So he kind of went from politics to Hollywood, but he wrote the script for the project, and the movie will follow at least the original movie followed a psychiatrist chosen to act as the president's top secret therapist. And as the president unloads his troubles onto the therapist, the man begins to crack under the strain of all the secrets, becoming paranoid that all the agencies, both foreign and national, want to get, want the information that the president has been confiding in him. That's what it was. And the remake is said to be a re-examining of the 1967 movie that was, of course, a satire, but told through the lens of the contemporary political landscape, which probably in some ways hasn't changed that much. But yeah, that's what the movie's going to be about. And I like Trevor Noah. I liked when he took over for the Daily Show. It doesn't have the same kick to it as Jon Stewart did, but I think he's definitely made the show his own. So for that, I applaud him for that. All right, so that was it. So that was the only big two news items that came out after the podcast came out last week. Let's move on to this week, and we're going to talk about some trailers first. First, there was Disney released a quick minute-long new teaser for their live-action Cruella movie, and the short had a lot of brand new footage in it I'm assuming it's probably the introduction of Cruella to the world. Because the movie, in the movie, it's an origin story. Emma Stone's playing Cruella, and she's supposed to be like this grifter and wannabe fashion designer who eventually catches the eye of a high-end fashion designer played by Emma Thompson. And kind of, Emma Thompson's character kind of takes her under her wing and teaches her the ways, the fashion world and everything. And then, of course, Emma Stone's character, who's not named Cruella, it looks like she's taking on the persona of Cruella DeVille. So when she pops up in the scene in the trailer, which is kind of how the trailer ends almost, she's riding on the back of a motorcycle that comes in and basically does these donuts to create this smoke. And she comes out of the smoke and she's wearing that iconic hairdo that we all know, the black and white hair. And on her face, her face makeup says the future. So we can kind of assume kind of how that relationship is going to play out. I mentioned when the trailer first came out for Cruella that it surprised me. It blew me away. I didn't know what to expect from Cruella, and I was not expecting this kind of Joker-esque Birds of Prey kind of vibe to it. And I think a lot of fans are flocking to that because they, a lot of the time when we hear about these live action Disney movies, we can kind of expect what the movie is. It's very colorful. It's very bright. It's, it's telling the story that we already know. With Cruella, we know her from the 101 Dalmatians movies. We don't really get too much of a backstory about her. So this is kind of digging into that. Is it unnecessary? Maybe, but we're getting it, and it's very surprising. It's still surprising. I'm actually looking forward to it, which I didn't think I would say about this movie, but I am. So Cruella will open on May 28th in theaters, maybe Disney Plus. We haven't figured it out yet, but Disney's holding out their hope that the movie will be coming out in theaters and that people can come back in theaters. So there's that. Warner Brothers released not one but two trailers for their highly anticipated adaptation of the musical In the Heights. Both trailers have different titles. One of them is called The Washington Heights, and the other is Powerful. Each focus on, of course, their different respective songs. For the most part, they pretty much don't have the same shots. There's a few same shots in there, but if you watch both trailers, they both are very different in their own way. I'm excited for this. Anthony Ramos stars as Hughes Navy, a bodega owner in New York City. in the New York City neighborhood of Washington Heights, who tries to live the American dream. And of course, all these things are kind of coming at him. There's the Dream Act that plays a very heavy factor in the movie. I don't know. I never saw the play, so I don't know if that comes from the play or if that just is something they created for the movie. Lin-Manuel Miranda, who of course created the original show, the Broadway show, will appear in the movie. Looks like he's playing kind of a salesman that goes around. He will be in it. Corey Hawkins is in it. Jimmy Smits is in it as well. It's directed by John M. Chu, who's coming off Crazy Rich Asians. It looks great. It does. It's in there's a scene in both trailers where it looks like two characters are walking on the side of a building. So it's taking that mystical element of a musical. You're in this world of a musical. You just expect that you're not in the real world. You're in this world of people just burst into song and dance. And but yeah, I wasn't looking that forward to In the Heights, and then I saw these trailers and they did kind of win me over a little bit. So I am looking forward to it. So In the Heights will open in theaters and stream on HBO Max on the same day on June 18th. Actually, scratch that. In the Heights will now come out on June 11th. They just moved it, so June 11th for a week earlier for all you In the Heights fans. All right, so those are the trailers that came out this week. Let's move on to the rest of the movie news items. We're going to go over to Quickfire. Remember, Quickfire is basically where I got some noteworthy news items that I don't have too much to say about them, but I do think they're still noteworthy, and we should at least note them. Obviously, like this first one, Sony Pictures has moved Venom: Let There Be Carnage from their June release date of this year to September of this year. So September 17th to be more exact. So they're not moving it a whole year like a lot of other movies. It's a 3-month move. It's also a move that makes some sense because the movie would be in direct competition with F9, which moved earlier this month to that date of June 25th, which was the original release date for the movie, but no longer the case. Instead, Venom will still compete against some big movies. It will actually compete against 2 other sequels. The first one is the Boss Baby Family Business movie, which was, of course, a sequel to The Boss Baby, and the sequel to The Murder on the Orient Express, which is called Death on the Nile. So those 2 movies are still set for September 17th. There's also a change for another Sony movie, which coincidentally also stars Woody Harrelson, who is in Venom: Let There Be Carnage. The Kevin Hart Woody Harrelson movie, The Man from Toronto, which was set for a September 17th date, but has been taken off the release calendar, at least for right now. Of course, Andy Serkis will direct Let There Be Carnage. He will bring back, of course, Tom Hardy, Michelle Williams, and Reed Scott. Reed Scott was the boyfriend of Michelle Williams' character in the movie, the Doctor. And of course, they will formally introduce Woody Harrelson's Cletus Cassidy, aka Carnage, who also co-starring in the movie is Naomi Harris and Stephen Graham. So another big move. Sony did also move their other Marvel property of Morbius from this year to next year in January. So there's that too. Not too much concern. Obviously, studios are still trying to figure out when's the best time to release a movie with the pandemic going on and movie theaters opening up and everything like that. So moving on, the horror short movie Don't Peek, which recently premiered at the South X by Southwest Online Film Festival, is currently getting a feature-length movie. The short was directed by Julian Terry, who did upload it online before the festival, a couple weeks before the festival actually, where the festival did pick it up and decided to showcase it there. The short follows a young woman discovering a frightening video game character intent on coming into the real world, which, by the way, Don't Peek is actually labeled a Animal Crossing horror short. So if anyone familiar with the Animal Crossing game, this is supposed to be a horror short based on that video game. And let's be honest, we all want to see a horror movie based on that. The movie will be produced and presumably directed, at least the way the reports are putting it, by director Timur. I always mispronounce his last name, so bear with me. Although I'm always mispronouncing last names here on the podcast. Beck Mementabov, he directed Wanted, the Angelina Jolie, James McAvoy, Morgan Freeman movie. He also directed Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, which it's fine. It's fine. It's not awesome, but it's good. He also directed the remake of Ben-Hur, which was not good. But he's mainly kind of been sticking to the producing side of things lately. He directed produced Hardcore Henry and the Unfriended horror movies. So he's kind of going back into the horror territory here. This is actually Julian Terry's third short that has been picked up. Legendary Pictures picked up his short They Hear It, and Amblin, the Steven Spielberg production company, picked up Whisper, which is also online if you want to go check that out. That is an Amazon Echo horror short. So there you go. Terry also directed an Annabelle Creation short film titled The Nurse, which actually won him a contest. So his name has pretty much been out there, and he's kind of solidified himself as kind of a horror short expert out there. So I will put a link to Don't Peek if you want to go watch it, and then from there you can go on to his channel and check out his other short films that he has on there as well. The Nurse is on there. Whisper is on there. They Hear It is not up on the website, so I'm assuming that was probably like an actual film festival release, and he hasn't put it up online because of whatever's going on. But yeah, there you go. So that's kind of cool. I have seen the short. I saw it as soon as I heard about the news, and I don't play Animal Crossing, but I kind of don't want to now because of that, because I'm afraid something's going to come out from the video game into my world. So yeah, but it's pretty cool. His shorts are very, very good. I did see The Nurse when it first came out, because they were doing the whole contest thing when Annabelle Creations was going to be released. So I did see that, and so it is actually very good. So highly recommend you go check out his shorts and that. So, because we're gonna get a feature length film, and it seems to be happening a lot lately. A lot of horror, especially horror shorts, are getting feature length films, and a lot of times they're bringing on the director of those shorts, but it doesn't look like he's gonna be directing that. Maybe he will be involved, maybe as like a producer or a writer or something. But yeah, that's kind of cool that they're gonna be doing that. Moving on, newcomer Mexican actor Diego Calva has landed a critical role in Damien Chazelle's newest movie, Babylon, which already has Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt set to star. Also joining the cast are rising stars Jovan Epido and Lee Jun Lee. Damien Chazelle, of course, the writer-director of La La Land and First Man. He will be directing and writing this as well. It's a drama set in the golden age of Hollywood in the late 1920s during the industry's transition from silent films to talkies, as they used to call them, and tells the rise and fall of multiple characters throughout the movie. Going back to Calva, he is a Mexican. His role will be that of a Mexican man making his way up the Hollywood ladder, starting out as a assistant. So he reportedly beat out 2 established names, despite only a handful of credits to his name in projects from Mexico and South America. But apparently some chemistry tests with Margot Robbie sealed the deal for him. Pitt and Robbie will play stars trying to adjust to the change as well. So there is that. I'm sure it seems like they're going to be based off certain characters. Not entirely, because originally Robbie was going to be playing a character similar to, or full blown out Clara Bow, who was a very early sex symbol in Hollywood, and it was actually a box office star, and she was kind of classified as the first it girl in Hollywood back in the day, but they reworked it to make her a more original character. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be some instances of real life bleeding into it, but yeah, there you go. Babylon will have a limited release on December 25th of next year, and we'll get a wide release of January 6th in 2023. An adaptation of Jason Turan's novel God is a Bullet is going to get a feature film adaptation that will be written and directed by Nick Cassavetes, the director of The Notebook and John Q. Plus, a cast is already set for the movie as well. The film will follow a vice detective, Bob Hightower, played by Nikolai Coster-Waldau, aka Jamie Lannister from Game of Thrones, who finds his ex-wife murdered and daughter kidnapped by a satanic cult. Frustrated by the botched official investigations, he quits the force, gets tattoos, and infiltrates the cult to hunt down the cult leader with the help of the cult's only female victim escapee, Case Harden, played by Minka Monroe from It Follows. She was also in the very terrible Independence Day sequel, but she's also been in a bunch of other stuff. But I mainly know her from It Follows for some reason. I've seen her in other stuff too, but the only thing that comes to my mind right now is It Follows. Anyway, other cast members include January Jones, Andrew Dice Clay, and Jamie Foxx. Fox will play a pivotal supporting role of the ferryman, whatever that entails. I have not read the book. No word yet on who Jones or Clay will play just yet. Pre-production has already started in Mexico City, with production due to start at the end of May of this year. Universal has finally given a release date and title for the Puss in Boots sequel. The title will be Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and will come out in September 23rd of next year. The sequel will bring back Antonio Banderas as the voice of Puss in Boots, as he journeys after the mythical last wish, the only thing that could restore the 8 lives he's already lost. Apparently, the reason for the wait is due to many changes during production. One of them, a massive one, is that the directing change. For a while, it was going to be directed by Bob Persichetti. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He was the director of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So there was that. But the movie will now be directed by Joel Crawford and produced by Mark Swift. The two of them were responsible for The Croods: A New Age, which was very entertaining. At least for me. I know for a few others. So there you go. The movie was announced a while back, and which is the reason why I said that earlier. It looks like it's finally happening. I was a very big fan of Puss in Boots, the first movie. I know that the characters lived on through like a TV series. I think there was a Netflix TV series at one point, or a Netflix movie, but he's going to be living on through another movie. I'm excited for it. Like I mentioned, I like the first movie and I like the character. So, yeah, let's why not? Let's do it. All right. So that is the last bit of quickfire. That was actually the last quickfire movie news item. All right. So let's move on, to the big movie news items of the week. All right, so the first big movie news item of the week we're going to talk about is that Blumhouse Productions and EPIX have a new partnership. It was announced this week with a statement that reads like this. Premium network EPIX and Blumhouse today announced a new partnership in which Jason Blum's television company will develop and produce 8 elevated standalone horror genre thriller movies exclusive for the network. Blumhouse, or Jason Blum, I should say, will serve as an executive producer. They also say that the first movie is ready, or at least not ready to go, because they haven't started filming yet. Starts filming relatively soon, and aims to have a release date for December 2021, so this year. The first movie is A House on the Bayou. The movie follows a troubled couple and their preteen daughter who go on a vacation to an isolated house in the Louisiana Bayou to reconnect as family. But when unexpected visitors arrive, the facade of a family unity starts to unravel as terrifying secrets come to light. The rest of the movies from this deal will be coming out in 2022. Blumhouse is, of course, growing their horror genre thriller brand with other services. They have a newly launched Welcome to Blumhouse series up on Amazon's Prime Video and the Into the Darkness anthology series for Hulu. So Blumhouse is on top of their game, not just for movie productions and movie releases, feature-length movies coming out from Universal and stuff, but they also have their streaming services, on lock too. So that's pretty cool. EPIX. It looks like maybe EPIX is going to become somewhat of a, kind of a upper grabs streaming service, or at least cable network. They released Saint Maud earlier this year. It wasn't Blumhouse. It actually came from A24, but I think the Saint Maud did bring up EPIX a little bit in terms of, this can be a place where we can release movies and stuff like that. So this is pretty cool. I think EPIX also has a deal with someone else. I want to say I remember reading something like that, but I just forgot to look it up. So, but yeah, that's actually pretty cool. So I have not seen the Welcome to Blumhouse movies yet. I heard some mixed things about it. I know that Into the Darkness movies on Hulu do get a lot of love for what they are, so I'm definitely going to check those out as well. Kind of been on the teeter end of it, because that was the first thing they did. That was their Hulu series. Into the Darkness was kind of the first thing that they've been they kind of toyed around with TV wise. Of course, they did the Purge TV series and stuff like that, but I think that was the first thing that they really played around with. And now, the Welcome to Blumhouse stuff, which again got pretty decent reviews and mixed reviews at best, but decent reviews overall. So I'm looking forward to this. I think it'll be pretty cool to kind of see what Blumhouse can do with EPIX. So let's move on to the next movie news item. And it was actually last year when it was announced that Fede, and we talked about this, I think, earlier in the year, or maybe it was last year, but last year was announced that Fede Alvarez, the director of Don't Breathe and the Evil Dead remake, was producing a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and it was going to be directed by David Blue Garcia, who directed a movie called Tijuana. I don't know where you can stream it, but I know it's out, so if you want to go check that out. This week, speaking with Bloody Disgusting's The Boo Crew podcast, Alvarez confirmed that the movie is not another remake, but is actually a sequel to the original movie and is set many years after the events of the first film with a, quote, old man Leatherface. Whatever implication you want to talk about that. Alvarez did note that the movie is taking the old school approach with the gore, saying, quote, everything is classic old school gags. A lot of the approach that we had for Evil Dead, never VFX, which of course is visual effects, to do everything on camera. It's very old school approach to filmmaking, vintage lenses. It's very similar to the original movie. The cast of the movie, because they did film this movie already, the cast of the movie includes Elsie Fisher from 8th Grade and Hulu's Castle Rock, Sarah Larkin from Happy Death Day to You, Jacob Lattimore from The Maze Runner. He also did a movie called Slight, which, speaking of Blumhouse, that was a Blumhouse movie. Came out very limited theater runs, but if you get a chance to go check out that movie, I highly recommend you do. He was also in the TV series The Shy, and Alice Krieg from Star Wars First Contact, aka the Boar Queen, and also Silent Hill. She usually plays a villain, so that's probably, I don't know if that means anything, but she usually plays a villain. And of course, a few other more, but those are the kind of big noteworthy names on there. Like I mentioned, the movie has been filmed. They filmed it last year. It doesn't have a release date just yet, but a lot of movie news outlets are saying that the movie can come out potentially come out sometime later this year, maybe even around October, or if they want to drop it in the summer, who knows. But the movie is filmed. To say the least, the movie is filmed, it's done, and hearing that it's taking kind of the Halloween approach, where it's a sequel that takes place after the original movie, is interesting. I know there was already a movie, I think it was Leatherface 3D, or one of them, that also took the same approach, where it was set after the events of the original, and that itself was a full-blown sequel to the original, but ignoring all the other sequels that happened. But I don't know. Who knows what they're going to do with this. But I'm interested in seeing what they do. I'll admit I have not seen Leatherface. I've only really seen the original first 3 Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. I haven't seen any of the new stuff that's come. Although I did see the remake, I should say. The remake, the one directed by Marcus Nispel, the one with Jessica Biel. I almost said Jessica Alba. Jessica Biel. I did watch that one. I'll admit I did watch that one. But I don't know. It should be interesting to see what they're going to do with this one. You know, I don't know anything about the new director. He's an up-and-coming guy from the looks of it, because he only has really one movie. He has one movie and a short. So I guess Alvarez kind of saw him and he was like, man, this guy seems pretty good. So they gave him the job. So, and the writer for the movie is also relatively unknown. He hasn't really directed, or not directed. He hasn't written anything either. I think he has one thing in production that some studios are holding off on, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about this? I remember watching the original one. I think I didn't see the original one until I was in high school, but I had heard about it, and I never saw it, though. I didn't see it until I was in high school, and I remember the conversation around it, and it still boggles me to this day that everyone has this distinct memory of this movie being the most bloody movie in the world. It is the most grotesque movie in the world. There isn't hardly any blood in that original movie. If you watch the original movie again, or if you haven't seen it in a while, and you're like, oh, man, I remember this happening, it's like, no, you don't, because it's not really a gore movie. And I think that, those comments may make some people worry that they're just going to turn this into a gore fest, like all the sequel, like all these newer age sequels and remakes have been doing. But at least relating to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But I don't know. I trust Fede Alvarez. I really liked what he did with the Evil Dead remake. I know a lot of people are very split on that, but I actually do like the Evil Dead remake. I really liked what he did with Don't Breathe, which was interesting and intriguing. I'll be a little biased because I saw the movie at a film festival before it came out, and Stephen Lang was there, so that may have affected me some way, but I still think it's a relatively good movie as well. So I think Fede Alvarez has a real eye for it. He's producing the movie, but I don't know. I think I would be more excited if he was directing rather than producing. Maybe that's just me, but we'll see. All right, moving on. Colin Trevorrow, the director of Jurassic World and the upcoming Jurassic World Dominion, is set to direct an adaptation of David Fincher's novel War Magician, and Benedict Cumberbatch will lead the movie, which is also based on a true story of a British illusionist named Jasper. I'm going to mispronounce his last name. Named Jasper Maskelyne. I think that's how you pronounce the last name. Who used magic. Yes, magic to defeat Erwin Rommel in World War II. Deadline, which broke the news, reported that Trevorrow's take on the material will focus on an, quote, international magic gang from Africa, Europe, and the Middle East who conspired with Maskelyne and a female military intelligence officer to defeat the Nazis. Who doesn't want to see that? Who doesn't want to see magic defeat Nazis? I know I do. Anyway, the real life Maskelyne claimed he did all these elaborate ruses and illusions and camouflage to deceive and help defeat the Nazis, but many of his claims, of course, were disputed, and his reputation was somewhat tarnished after that. Still, seeing Benedict Cumberbatch, I'm assuming he's probably playing Maskelyne, the real life man. So seeing him and Trevorrow, obviously he started off as kind of an indie guy with Safety Not Guaranteed. That won him the job of Jurassic World. He took Jurassic World 2 because he was doing the Book of Henry, which was not very well received and admittedly not that great of a movie. And then he came back for Jurassic World Dominion. I'm interested. I want to see, even if, a lot of these claims were disputed and maybe, you have an idea in your head when you hear a magic gang went and defeated, obviously they didn't defeat the whole Nazi army and empire, but, they probably defeated some, these small little, armies and ranks every here and there. You have an idea in your head of what that looks like and what maybe that is. And I have an idea in my head, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm not gonna lie. And then you got Benedict Cumberbatch, and of course it will all be interesting to see how who they bring together for this. That's what I'm looking forward toward. All right, let's get to the final movie news item of the week, at least at the time of this recording. That is, of course, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, the Oscar nominations. The 93rd Academy Award nominations came out this week, and obviously this year's awards will be very different from other years. So let's get to the nominees. I won't read them all. I'm just putting that out there. I won't read them all now. I do usually do a Oscar predictions podcast before the show. So I'm just going to highlight the big ones here, like pretty much all the support, like all the actors and stuff. And I will read all of the nominations, again, on the Oscar predictions podcast that I do that week, obviously, before the Oscars. So Best Supporting Actress nominees are Maria Bakalova from the Borat movie, Glenn Close from Hillbilly Elegy, Olivia Colman for a role in The Father, Amanda Seyfried for Mank, and Jung Jong Young from Minari. Best Supporting Actor is Sacha Baron Cohen for Trial of the Chicago 7. Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield both got nominated for their roles in Judas and the Black Messiah. Leslie Odom Jr. for One Night in Miami, and Paul Raci for Sound of Metal. Best Actress, we have Viola Davis for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Andrea Day for The United States vs. Billie Holiday, Vanessa Kirby for Pieces of a Woman, Frances McDormand for No Man Land, and Carey Mulligan for Promising Young Woman. Best Actor is Riz Ahmed for Sound of Metal, Chadwick Boseman for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Anthony Hopkins for The Father, Gary Oldman for Mank, and Stephen Yeun for Minari. Best Director is Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round, David Fincher for Mank, Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, Chloe Zhao for No Man Land, and Emerald Finley, I think I pronounced her last name, for A Promising Young Woman. Best Picture is The Father, Judas and the Black Messiah, Mank, Minari, No Man Land, Promising Young Woman, Sound of Metal, and Trial of the Chicago 7. So those are all the nominees for those big categories. Like every year, there are snubs and surprises, so might as well just get those out of the way too. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom and One Night in Miami were not nominated for Best Picture, as some predicted. Regina King, who directed One Night in Miami in her directorial debut, was kind of maybe thought of being nominated for Best Director. So was Aaron Sorkin for his work in the trial of Chicago 7, but instead it went to Wittenberg. who directed the Danish film Another Round, which was nominated for Best International Film as well. But yeah, that's kind of surprising there. Kaluuya and Stanfield obviously are kind of the big one here. Both were nominated for Best Supporting Actor category, which seems odd since Kaluuya has been nominated for Best Actor in every other show, in every other award show. Maybe they thought he had a better chance of winning Best Supporting Actor instead of Best Actor. There's also the fact that maybe the studio, when they put in for your consideration, decided to put him in Best Supporting Actor instead, which seems kind of mean to Lakeith Stanfield because that means he probably won't win. But I guess they just thought Kaluuya had a better chance of winning for Best Supporting Actor, which he probably, honestly, admittedly, probably will. Probably one of the big ones, at least amongst film fans, is Delroy Lindo not getting a nomination for his performance in The Five Bloods. In fact, there was not a lot of love for the movie for The Five Bloods. The Spike Lee movie only got one nomination, and that was for Best Original Score, where it will do battle against Mank, Minari, News of the World, and Pixar's Soul. It does sound, at least from what I've read, that Netflix was pushing for Lindo for a nomination, but if I read it right, it looked like they were pushing him for Best Actor instead of Supporting Actor, which may have played a factor in what was going on. Either way, Lindo did not get nominated, which is kind of a shame because I thought he was very good in The Five Bloods. He has a very, very, very big standout scene that easily alone was Oscar worthy for a nomination. Anyway, whatever. Some tidbits for you guys. I always like these. I don't know why. I just do. David Fincher's Mank got the most nominations with 10. Amazon's Sound of Metal and A24's Minari received 7 nominations. And all the other big movies like No Man Land, Judas and Black Messiah, Promising Young Woman, and The Trial of Chicago 7 all earned 6 nominations. For the first time in history, there are 2 female directors nominated in Best Director. Chloe Zhao is also the first non-white woman to be nominated. She might also be the first non-white woman to win the Oscar nomination. There's only ever been 5 women nominated for Best Director. Never in the same year. But there's only been 5. They are Lena Whitmiller for 1997 for The Seven Beauties, Jane Champion in 1994 for The Piano, Sofia Coppola in 2003 for Lost in Translation, Catherine Bigelow in 2010 for The Hurt Locker, which she won, and she is the only woman to win Best Director. She's the only woman to win Best Director, and Greta Gerwig in 2018 for Lady Bird. So this year, some history making all around, especially in the Best Director category with Chloe Zhao and Emerald Finley. So congratulations to them. Zhao, while I'm still on this, Zhao is also the first woman to be nominated 4 times in a single year. She was also nominated for Best Editing and Best Adapted Screenplay. She's nominated for Best Director and Best Picture. Usually with Best Pictures nominations, it's only the producers that kind of get the nomination and get the credit for it. Chloe Zhao is producer on No Man Land, so she has 4 nominations in 1 year, which is very, very cool. Also, this year, 70 women received 76 nominations this year, 2 of which are Mia Young and Jamaica Wilson, who became the first 2 black women to be nominated for an Oscar in makeup and hairstyling, which is really, really cool. And I always find this interesting, but I found this more interesting of anything. This is the only year where one film nominated for Best Picture is from a major movie studio, and that's Judas and the Black Messiah, which comes from Warner Brothers. All the other nominees are from, I won't say smaller studios, but they're not, again, major big studios like Warner Brothers, or Disney, or Paramount, or anything like that. So all the other movies nominated for Best Picture come from studios like Amazon, Netflix, A24, Focus Features, Searchlight Pictures, and Sony Classics, which is interesting. Speaking of which, Netflix got 35 nominations, which is not the record. That belongs to United Artists, which got 45, which is amazing, in 1941. So it's been a very long time since that record's been broken, but there you go. Apple has joined the fray in getting nominations for their animated feature Wolfwalkers and Best Editing for Greyhound, which is really cool. So there's that. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross got 2 nominations this year for their scores. One is Mank and the other one is Pixar's Soul. So they're probably definitely going to win at least, for one of those. Speaking of Soul, Director Pete Docter earned his 4th nomination, which is a record for the category. Docter has won twice for Up in 2009 and Inside Out in 2015. He's also been nominated a total of 9 times. The others were for writing. They were all for Toy Story, WALL-E, Up, and Inside Out. Moving on to the Best Actor category, Riz Ahmed and Steven Yeun both received their first nominations in the Best Actor category. Ahmed is also the 4th Muslim actor to get nominated, and Yeun is the first Asian American to get nominated in that category, which is really cool. Other first-time nominees include Andrea Day, Vanessa Kirby, Daniel Kaluuya, Maria Bakalova, and Young Jun Young. Glenn Close got her 8th nomination. She has never won one, but she got her 8th nomination this year. Christina Oh, the producer of Minari, is also the first Asian American woman to receive nominations for Best Picture, while director Lee Isaac Chung is the second Asian American after M. Night Shyamalan to be nominated for Best Director. Judas and the Black Messiah is the first all-black produced film to receive a nomination. Viola Davis is now the most nominated black actress in Oscar history with her 4th nomination, and is the only one with 2 leading acting nods. So that's pretty cool. I'm sure there's other tidbits in there that I've missed, but those are the quick ones that I was able to find. The 93rd Oscars will air live on ABC on April 25th, and we will talk about those on all the nominations once we get closer to the Oscar show next month. So those are all your those are your short nominees anyway, and some tidbits and snubs and stuff. So let us move on to the final part of this podcast, which I wasn't originally going to do, but I decided to do it because I watched it. I didn't think I was going to be able to get a chance to watch it, but I did. And that is Zack Snyder's Justice League.
He said the age of heroes would never come again.
Fighting the devil and his army. You know, I don't care how many demons he's fought and how many hells. He's never fought us united.
All right, so before I start with my thoughts on the movie, I just want to quickly say a few things. One, and up front, if you've heard the podcast, you probably have known about this, but I was not the biggest fan of the whole release the Snyder Cut movement. Not because I don't like Zack Snyder. It's just that we have been so far removed from Justice League that I thought it really didn't matter anymore. And while yes, I did think that he probably got the short end of the stick when he left the project because, for sad, unfortunate reasons that his daughter passed. It was really more of how the movement of release the Snyder Cut got to me and got to be as a whole. Because the whole thing, especially at the beginning, was just way too forced. And I know a lot of people called it like a cult following or cult-like. And I always found it funny because no one, I do not remember everyone was really a big fan of Snyder like that, because it felt like when the release the Snyder Cut movement started, all of these like secret Zack Snyder fans just broke free from wherever they were and went online and started this whole movement. And I really don't remember that many people liking Zack Snyder before all this. Which was really odd and weird to me, which is probably another reason why I was not a big fan of the whole release the Snyder Cut movement. Which leads me to Zack Snyder himself. I like Man of Steel. I did. I still, to this day, like Man of Steel. And Batman v Superman, not that much. And I know I'm not alone in this when it comes to Zack Snyder. He is a great visual storyteller. Visually, he's great. But when it comes to story and plot, not so much. Sometimes you get a great looking movie with a decent story like Man of Steel, and then you get a movie like Sucker Punch, which was not very good. Again, visually, great to look at when the action scenes are going on. He's a great action director too. But when it comes to story and everything, again, not so much. All that said, I am glad that Snyder finally gets to put his vision, albeit it's only one part of his vision for this world, because this was supposed to be a setup for Justice League sequels 2 and 3, which obviously won't happen anymore, at least not Snyder's version of Justice League 2 and 3. So let's just get to my thoughts my quick thoughts on what's going on. By the way, I am going to spoil some stuff in this. I probably should have put that at the beginning, but I am going to spoil some stuff in this. So if you don't want to get spoiled, if you haven't watched it yet, probably don't listen to this. Quick thoughts. Again, spoilers. I'm going to start off with the pros because I don't want to just feel like I'm bashing on the thing. I'm going to start off with the pros. Ray Fisher's Cyborg. Snyder mentioned that when he was still directing, before he even directed the movie, that Cyborg was going to be an emotional core of the movie, the emotional core of the movie. And we see that. It's true. He plays a very large role in this movie, and you can make the argument that he's kind of the second lead in the movie, next to Ben Affleck's Batman. Maybe even the first lead. I'm not going to get into the whole Fisher behind-the-scenes stuff with Joss Whedon, because that could just be a whole separate podcast thing, and then it gets, a little murky with he said, and, everything that's going on right now. And Fisher, of course, has been very vocal about Warner Brothers and Joss Whedon and everything else surrounding this. But he did, when you look at that, and then you look at this movie, and then you look at the version that we got, that was, of course, directed by Whedon, yes, Cyborg got the very, very short end of the stick, because he is everywhere in this movie, really. So there is that. Snyder's R rating is here because, I think when you look at Zack Snyder, you pretty much know him for his R-rated work. You know him from 300, you know him from the Dawn of the Dead remake. Sucker Punch had some R-rated moments in there as well, but with no fear of the MPAA on this, there was blood everywhere in this movie. Unexpected blood too. Like when Wonder Woman's taking out the guards in the beginning of the movie, she's flinging them against the walls, and there's blood splatter all over the walls. There's people getting decapitated and people being chopped in two, and there's blood everywhere. So it's nice to see Snyder kind of let loose a little bit for this R rating. The Russian family town arc is gone. I mean, the third act is still pretty much there. It still takes place in this, Russian village. But that whole third act is different for the most part. The backbone is still there. It's still the Justice League facing off against Steppenwolf and his parademons in the town. But it's, gone is the very bright orange sky, and it's taking place at night. The Justice League doesn't have to worry about saving civilians. It's just them facing Steppenwolf and his parademons. Nice little Easter egg, which I thought was interesting. Again, it's not going to go anywhere because, Warner Brothers always said it's not going to go anywhere. Ray Choi, aka the Atom, is in here. A pre-Atom. He's not the Atom yet, which I thought was very interesting. I thought that was kind of cool. It was a nice little touch. Expanding the world, which, again, not going to get expanded anymore. So those are the very big cons that I can, or the very big pros that I can see that I felt right away, right off the bat. So let's move on to the cons. Obviously, my thoughts are probably going to change, as stuff still processes and I'm still thinking about the whole thing. But here are the cons. It's too long. I'm sorry. It's still too long. I am the last person who wants to complain about a movie being too long, because sometimes movies could use an extra 10 minutes to, flesh stuff out. And some movies can be 10 minutes shorter. Not this movie. This movie is 4 hours long. The fact that they gutted down 2 hours of this movie so it can be 2 hours for a theater cut is amazing and mind-boggling to me. A lot of that, of course, was the cyborg stuff. But this movie's still too long. I'm sorry. It is basically an assembly cut, but it's still too long. Another reason why this movie's probably still too long is there's too much slow-mo in this movie. Why is there so much slow-mo in the first half of this movie? And it's not just the flash scenes, it's other scenes that don't need slow-mo. I'm a fan of good slow-mo as much as the next guy. I am. But there are scenes in this movie that don't need slow-mo. Why is there so much slow-mo in this movie? Seriously. If you cut the slow-mo down, this movie, it still would have, been 3 hours plus, but there's a lot of slow-mo in this movie. I don't know why there's so much slow. Anyway, whatever. You can call that nitpicky. There's no need for all that slow-mo. Anyway, moving on. The infamous nightmare sequence that was much talked about. We know that this was one of, if not the main thing that Snyder went back and shot during those additional reshoots and additional photography that they were doing. And honestly, as much as the nightmare sequence, alternate reality stuff, whatever you want to call it, looks cool and could be cool in a movie as a movie itself, or at least a large chunk of a movie, it felt like an afterthought here. It really felt like it was just tacked on. It felt like an afterthought. It really felt like it was just tacked on at the end. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of that scene, so I don't know. And then the scene itself, it leads to the reveal, at least the second reveal of the Martian Manhunter. And I don't know, it kind of felt out of place. And I've been seeing some people, talking about the nightmare sequence, and they kind of share it. It just kind of feels tacked on at the end. I don't know. Again, I would love to see more of it, but it just felt like, okay, they added this stuff. I don't know if maybe it was just the placement of the scene. I don't know. It just felt out of place with everything else that was happening and going on. But just to go back a little bit to the actual nightmare scene, not just talking about the Martian Manhunter scene, we finally see Jared Leto's Joker interact with Ben Affleck's Batman, which is cool because I know a lot of fans wanted to see the two together. I think part of me even felt like wanted to see those two together, and it was fine. Again, the whole scene is just, it kind of felt out of place for me. I don't know. Maybe it was because it was just after so much that was going on already. And this might be nitpicky. I will admit that. I will give you this, guys, this one. Artistically or not, why is the movie out of focus? Why was there like a good 10 seconds of the movie being out of focus when the Joker was talking? Why? It bothered me. It really did. I don't know why it bothered me as much as it did. I was like, why is this movie out of focus? Why? I don't know. That I will give you that being nitpicky. I will give you that one. But that's just that. All right, whatever. Artistic or not, put your movie in damn focus, please. Moving on from that, all that. The Lois scenes. I know even in the Justice League that we saw, Lois always felt kind of, her scenes were kind of just there. I don't think a lot of people were big fans of Amy Adams. Fans are Amy Adams, but I think even in the Justice League, especially from what I can remember of that movie, her scenes were just kind of there. And that is even more dominant here in this one because they seem out of place or not important for a 4-hour movie. She literally disappears for a long time in this movie. I want to say like an hour or 30 minutes, 45 minutes, something close to that. And when she comes back, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. She's in this movie. She literally disappears from the movie and it doesn't need it. It's almost like she doesn't even need to be in the movie, really. And I don't understand why the Lois Martha scene, why it played out the way it did. Why couldn't it have just been Martha instead of talking to her, instead of Martian Manhunter posing as Martha? Because in hindsight, wouldn't you think that Lois would bring up the fact that she had that conversation with her? Again, hindsight. I don't know. Nitpicky, maybe. Moving on. Because you could have just saved the Martian Manhunter, because we already knew that Martian Manhunter, if that was supposed to be in the original movie, then okay. I think that's one of the original scenes that was supposed to be in the original movie. Then that's okay. Fine. Have that be the only Martian Manhunter scene that was in it. But it kind of takes away the surprise and the specialness of seeing Martian Manhunter at the end of the movie when we know he's already in it. But I don't know. All right, maybe that's just me. Moving on to, I'm still processing some stuff as well, of course. And some of the stuff I'm still processing is the CG. Most of the new budget pretty much went into the CG. I think we all kind of know that. And for the most part, it does look pretty good and polished. The new Steppenwolf design is better than from the past design that we got. The character does feel a little bit more like an actual character. We actually kind of know a little bit more what drives Steppenwolf besides, getting the mother boxes together and creating the unity. Because, he originally was kind of just this one-note character. He kind of just showed up and was like, hey, I'm the bad guy. That's it. That's all you need to know about me. Here, we get to know why he's doing what he's doing. And I don't know if it completely makes up for the fact that he was kind of a nothing character, but at least we know more about him. And I and a lot of that stuff also leads into Darkseid, who we finally see. And I know a lot of people were like, finally, we're getting Darkseid. And the Darkseid design is okay. I think I'm so used to the cartoon version of Darkseid, which of course is obviously based off his comic book version. Because especially the cartoon version for me, because that was my first introduction to Darkseid overall. The design is pretty different, and it's a welcome one. And yeah, it was supposed to introduce him again, knowing we're not going to see him again in any movie, or at least this version of Darkseid. that we saw, it's like, oh, cool, we finally get to see Darkseid on the big screen in a movie. And it's like, oh, that's right, it doesn't matter. That said, the new CG in some places is still a little wonky. When Steppenwolf is talking to Desaad, through the, that brick that he had, that whatever that was, that monolith, if you will, when they're talking to each other, it just, I don't know, the CG kind of seems a little wonky for me personally. The Martian Manhunter design probably could have used a little bit more touching up, a little bit more work. The design is cool. I mean, obviously he looks like Martian Manhunter, but again, time constraints probably could have probably held that back a little bit. I mean, even a little more fine tuning, but for me knowing nothing about how to make CGI characters, but anyway, all that said, it leads to the main thing, the important thing, the ultimate thing, which I know everyone, I can hear everyone already telling me, get over it, enjoy the movie, we finally got it. But at the end of the day, none of this matters. None of it. Warner Brothers has made it known they are moving away from Snyder's original vision of the DCEU and his Justice League. So really the whole setup of Darkseid coming to Earth to find the anti-life equation, which has always been on Earth, apparently. Did he not know that when he first came to Earth? Because the new version of the original invasion, when the armies got together, the Atlanteans, the humans, the one Green Lantern, and the Amazons, that scene was reworked to have Darkseid be the one invading, not Steppenwolf. It was always Darkseid. In the version that we got, 4 years ago, it was Steppenwolf and his people and his parademons, which no longer smell fear. In this version, parademons just smell that the mother box has been around people. So that kind of changes, obviously, the third act or the final act in the movie. But it's Darkseid that comes to Earth. He was already here. Did he not? Was he just so focused on conquering Earth that he didn't realize that the thing he's been looking for X amount of years has been on Earth the whole time? Again, hindsight. Nitpicky, if you will. Anyway, none of it matters. Plus, the Martian Manhunter scene with Bruce is pointless, really. Story-wise, anyway, it's pointless because it gives fans hope that we're finally going to get Martian Manhunter in a movie. It gives fans hope that, okay, this is a future that's going to be really cool. But again, it's not going to happen because Warner Brothers is not continuing with Snyder's vision. And they've already said, Snyder himself said that Warner Brothers told him that his version is not canon. So, there is that. It's just, it's at the end of the day, really, when you think about it, it's just another director's cut special that will ultimately mean nothing and have no bearing on what happens to the future upcoming DCU movies, like The Flash, because The Flash apparently has a different story, Shazam, the Shazam sequel, Black Adam, the Suicide Squad, and everything else that they're working on afterwards. Sure, maybe Warner Brothers could rework The Flash again, which will probably delay it again, with some of the stuff that can be worked in from the Snyder cut. I doubt it. The hashtag movement worked this time, but will it work again? I don't know. Probably very doubtful, to be honest. That said, though, I am happy, and it's great for fans who wanted to see this that are finally seeing it. We get to see Snyder's what he originally intended, his original vision, and stuff that he had shot for the most part. Because obviously, there's a lot of stuff that Snyder still wanted to do. Like I mentioned, this is supposed to be a setup for his Justice League 2 and his Justice League 3, which won't happen anymore. But there is that. Overall, I guess I would recommend the movie to you guys. I mean, it's 4 hours long. Anytime you recommend a long movie, people will be like, why is it so long? When you recommend any movie, you can recommend an hour and a half movie. People are like, that's too long. Like those memes out there. It's like, 2.5 hour movie, 10-hour TV series. Okay. Like, I don't know. Again, I guess I would recommend it. It's a different movie than the movie we saw 4 years ago. It's a very different movie. I mean, structurally, it's still kind of the same, but there's a lot of differences that make this a whole new experience, a whole new viewing experience. It's still too damn long. It really is. It's 4 hours long. I mean, if you want to break, I took a break about halfway through the movie. I think I posted a picture online where I watched like 2.5 hours of the movie, and there was still 2.5 hours left. So, or something along those lines. So it's one of those things you have to power through and watch. Is it entertaining? Yeah, for the most part it is. You know, I'm not going to sit here and be like, and continually bash the movie and continually bring in the facts, you know, and just, you know, yes, it is enjoyable. It is a different movie. It is fun to watch for, you know, for what it is. But that part of me still can't get past the fact that none of it matters anymore. You won't see any of this really play into the future of the DC movies. Is it cool to watch? Is it a new experience? Is it a different experience that we usually get? Yes, it is. Is it groundbreaking? Yes. There is no, you know, doubt about it. You know, you can be a hater all you want, but you still have to admit that this is a newfound, I don't want to say experience, but just a newfound, I can't even think of the word anymore. I just lost it. And I know some of you guys are probably screaming at me that this is the word I'm thinking about, but I can't. It's something we haven't seen before. It's unprecedented, you know, for a studio to cave in and give a director back complete and total control to release a movie to a big franchise like this and be like, yeah, go ahead and do what you wanted to do. It's not going to matter, but you can go ahead and do it because we know fans want it. Like I said, the hashtag worked. The movement worked. Will it work a second time? I don't think so. That's just my opinion. If it does work, then great. Awesome. But I don't think it will work again. I don't. So that's just me. I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm just trying to be realistic and knowing everything that's happening. And Snyder himself saying that Warner Bros. Will not cave in and will not go back and restore his version of everything going on. Whether he deserved it or not that's something that, you know, well, I know everyone will be arguing about and stuff like that. So there you go. Those are my thoughts. And what I recommended, yes, I would. You know, again, I'm not a hater. I did enjoy it for what it was. It's still, you know, I really do think that, again, probably being nitpicky, it's the nightmare sequence being out of place, the fact that it's too long, the fact that the lowest scenes still just kind of are just there. It is a much darker version. It is Snyder's version. It's not, you know, poppy. There's not a lot of quippy jokes that Whedon obviously put into the movie. Is it a brand new thing? Yes. Is it Zack Snyder's Justice League? Yes. That title lives up to the name. This is Zack Snyder's Justice League. And if you're a fan of that, if you're a fan of the movement, I'm sure you're going to enjoy this. If you're like me, who was on the offset, who was going to give the movie a chance no matter what. I want to make that perfect clear. I was going to give the movie a chance no matter what. Will you enjoy it? Probably. For the most part, yes. The action scenes are pretty great. Everything else in between, the emotional core of Cyborg being the emotional core of the movie was great. His scenes were awesome. They were very good. Ray Fisher finally got his, you know, chance to shine in a movie that he was very looking forward toward and got the short end of the stick. And with Joss Whedon, I'll just put it like that for lack of a better phrase. Or you got screwed over. Let's just be honest. He got screwed over. But yeah, I would recommend it, I guess. Just prepare yourself that you're watching a 4-hour movie. And that's it, everybody. That is all the movie news that I have for you guys this week. Thank you guys so much for joining me on the podcast this week. I very much appreciate it. I don't know how long this is going to be, but I very much appreciate you guys sticking around if you're sticking around until right now. So yes, thank you guys so much for joining me on the podcast this week. Make sure to check us out on all of our platforms. That is YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. You can also go check out our social media pages. The links will be down below for all of that. And yeah, thank you guys so much. Now, before I leave, obviously there was a big tragedy this week, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that it is horrible what is happening to the Asian community. It's gotten worse. There's no articulate way that I can put it. It's horrible. It's more than horrible, but that's the only word that I can bring up. And you guys know I don't like to bring in, real world stuff in here. I'd like to keep it very clean and very, not clean, but just very, very entertaining. That's it. All I want to do is give the movie news to you guys, say my quippy jokes every now and then, let you be on your way. But what is happening right now is it's fucked up. I'll just be honest. It's fucked up. And I don't know how to articulately put this together without swearing even more. And I just want, you guys to be safe. If you know anybody that is affected by this, one way or another, everyone's going to be affected by this, whether they show it or not. So check in on them, check in on your friends, even if the most you want to do is put up a picture, use the hashtag Stop Asian Hate, do it. It shows that you're there for them, shows that you're in solidarity with them, and that can be more than enough for anyone who feels alone right now. So, okay, that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you guys so much. Again, check out all the links down below, and I will see you guys next week. Hopefully, maybe. Enjoy your weekend, guys. As always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!